Welcome to Past the Projections.
Fantasy experts, really. You should really consider us the pinnacle of fantasy football knowledge.
The host, Adam Skinner, the coach. There was a lot of debate on whether or not he would be that great. The guru, Thomas Lozano.
Kid's a playmaker, like you touched on there for a second.
Statman, Danny Pert.
Definitely a touchdown threat. Love the frame, love what I saw from him.
The wizard, Chris Roth.
Solid player with good floors.
The coach, the guru, the statistician, and the wizard. Talking fantasy football, Dynasty League specifically.
I just come here because I like to talk. And if you want to listen to me, it's completely on you.
That gets me every single time. Thomas with the just come here because he likes to talk. We all just like to talk, really. And hopefully you're listening to us. Past the Projections, once again, as you heard, back this week with our 2021 wide receiver rankings. We got myself, Adam Skinner, the coach, here, Thomas Lozano, the guru, and Chris Roth, the wizard, out in Denver, Colorado. How's it out there, guys, by the way? Kind of curious. Beautiful?
It was very nice this past week. The past 2 weekends, we've had snow. And then it was in the 50s and 60s this past week. And then I think it was supposed to snow on Tuesday.
Man, see?
Yeah, it was... I was gonna say it's probably like mid 60s because I was driving around today with both windows down, just cranking the music. It's one of those things too, it gets cold and snows, and then we get like 55 here, and everyone's like, you see people in shorts and t-shirts just walking around because you're used to the cold, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I need to go out and get some sun, and it's warm enough, and it feels like 70s even though it's only 55.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know. I saw a meme the other day that was like, Californians when it's 60, you're all bundled up, and Coloradans when it's 60, just shorts and short sleeves. You guys are out loving it. And it's funny, everyone, they're wearing like sweatshirts and heavy duty jackets and everything for like 55, 60-degree days because it's kind of chilly out here. I mean, I was at the beach, so I understand it. It gets nice. It's toasty. Mm-hmm. And beach life is not so bad. When we're talking March, I'm not used to that. I'm used to that cold, but I definitely don't miss it.
I mean, you remember those days when we lived up together at Breckenridge? We're both ski bums together. People don't know this. And then at one point, I got a Jeep. I want to say it was probably late March maybe. Yeah, and so it was a soft top. So we were driving that convertible Jeep around. I was like, well, it's 45 maybe, like tops. And driving around with the top down.
Yeah, we'd be on the mountain, halfway up the mountain in our short sleeve shirts when Texans are up there with their all bundled up. It'd be like 10 degrees out and sunny. And we're like, oh, this is gorgeous because it's freezing up there. But
I mean, Coloradans, we're built different.
It's true. That cold weather doesn't really get to you. You get used to it. In case anybody doesn't know, Danny Pert still out with the baby. He'll be out for a little while, enjoying new dad man life. So we're gonna we're replacing him with his phoned in picks this week that he sent us ahead of time. We're gonna kind of chime in with his version on this top 10 that we're doing this week. We've been doing a top 5 with quarterbacks and running backs, but we figured with the wide receiver position, we're going to have to expand a little bit to a top 10 because there are just so many different receivers to cover. So that being said, Thomas, are you ready to dive in to the Dynasty receiver rankings?
I think so.
Okay,
I think so. Well, I mean, I'm gonna try. Shout out to Danny though. We love you. We miss you.
Absolutely.
Thomas should be healthy and full of joy right now. So
little Tommy L.
Can't wait to have you back,
Tommy LP.
Yeah. From Big Thomas to Little Thomas.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna start. We have the same top 2, but in a different order. Thomas, who do you have number 1 and why?
I've got Tyreek Hill, number 1. He's the epitome of what a home run threat is. Anytime you get the ball into his hands, he's going to make an electric play. He's a tight end. He's tied into arguably the best quarterback in the game right now. For the next several years. And he showed what he can do with a full season last year. 1,500 receiving yards, 15 touchdowns. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns. So, I mean, he's a threat on the ground as well. He's just one of the guys that you can't I don't want to say you can't pass up on, but I don't know that you take anybody else over him that has as much explosiveness, upside, opportunity, and then just the situation is ideal and caters to exactly his playmaking abilities.
Yeah, and I'll give you that too, especially at the age, 26 years old, and he is probably the most electric player at any position in the NFL. I can give you, there's good reason for him to be number one on your list. I have him number two because of Davante Adams, who I think is a little bit better just because he gets more targets, more catches. So we're talking PPR versus non-PPR. If we're talking, or a half-point PPR league even, I think Tyreek Hill I'd give the number one spot to. But Davante Adams with that PPR, in those PPR, full PPR leagues or more, he is much more valuable. He gets the catches, he gets the targets. I think both of those two are in situations with two of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. They're both locked down for a long time. Davante had an unbelievable season last year, which I'm pretty positive he won't replicate next year. But 115 catches, 1,374 yards, that 18 touchdowns definitely is going to come down at least a little bit. But he's just an elite talent. Best receiver in the league, and he's probably going to go number one in just about everywhere, redraft or dynasty leagues. And I just think the only knock on him is his age. He's just at 29 years old, slightly older. But I think age is always over valued in dynasty. I think younger players, personally, we're going to get more into this in our rankings. We talked about this earlier. But I personally think age is overvalued. Youth is overvalued in dynasty. So at 29 years old, especially at the receiver position, Davante Adams will be good for another 5+ years. And yeah, I just like his situation a little bit more.
Yeah. It's not to say he's not going to be good for the next 5+ years, but we're also talking about the top wide receiver dog in dynasty here. Yeah. He's certainly going to continue to slide as he gets older. Like you touched on there, the touchdowns, you're going to see some regression there. I think you're going to see some regression with his yards, the catches. That appears to be pretty consistent, unless they start to change that game plan, which if it's not broke, don't fix it. You keep doing what you're doing with Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams, which is why I do have him at 2. The only other thing, I mean, it could be said for both guys. Soft tissue injuries and ankle injuries is really the only thing it's hampering these two guys. Otherwise, they're head and shoulders above the rest of the field there, which is why I have him slotted that way. But with Davante, he's not finished some seasons the last few years. I just like you said, I don't think he's going to have that career year that he had last year, or even match it. I certainly see some regression just across the board on him. But Aaron Rodgers is getting a little older. Davante Adams is getting a little older, and that's the only real knock on him. Which it's not a far slide. He went to number 2 as opposed to number 1.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're still talking about the 2 best players at the position. Doesn't matter which one you have. You're looking at a good situation. For sure, one good stat to mention with Davante Adams is that 77.2 catch percentage last year was his career best. His career average is 64.8, so I don't expect that to be anywhere close. Yeah, and the 18 touchdowns are a lot more than he averages. He averages around 10 a year. So definitely going to have a regression next year. I wouldn't expect him to be the number 1 receiver on the season, but he's going to be in the top 5. And he might be number 1. He just has that. He gets the target share. He gets 110 targets every year for the last 5 years, and he gets around 100 catches every year. So I think with Adams you can expect 100 catches and 10 touchdowns. He's done that for the last 5 years, 10 touchdown mark. And with Tyreek, without the receptions because they have to share the ball a little bit more in Kansas City, that's what I give Davante the slight edge to. But you're also looking at 2 years younger with Tyreek, so. As we mentioned, both those two pretty much across the board are top 2 on almost anybody's list.
And then also looking at Danny's list here, looks like he does agree with Thomas. So he's got Tyreek Hill at 1, and then Adams at 2. One interesting little tidbit I found here with Tyreek Hill is I'm kind of wondering what's going to go on with his contract. So the Chiefs tried to actually restructure it, most likely adding void years, and they said no. Most players, still the same amount of money into your bank account. Most players will say yes to that, including they have Mahomes and a couple other guys do that. So we said no, so you got to kind of wonder if there's something else going on there. If there's any friction. One thing Tyreek did come out and publicly say, though, was like, I play football. I don't pay, I pay someone to watch these contracts. But I think it's just something to keep an eye on. Yeah,
and also his character. There's some questions about his character. Obviously, he's had the past run-ins with the law, too, and it's just his own decisions are always slightly questioned. There's always that risk that he might do something Antonio Brownish and disappear.
And Antonio Brown was the top dog at wide receiver for about 7 years there.
Exactly.
before he went away. So hopefully we can milk this for another 5 years.
The Dynasty owners who had him fell with him. I mean, that's a guy that that's a risk you take when you've got a hot-headed guy like a Tyreek Hill who can make some interesting decisions, and you might go down with the ship. But I mean, with the stats he puts up when he plays and the situation he's in Kansas City, going to the Super Bowl the last 2 years, winning one of them, you know he's going to be there. So those two are definitely locks at the top two. Here is where we start getting into our debate. Thomas, who do you have at 3?
So I've been all aboard the Justin Jefferson hype train since midway through last year. Just seeing the numbers he was put up, just seeing how he plays on the field, how he carries himself. He looks like he's been playing wide receiver in the NFL for 5 years already. He just looks like a veteran wide receiver, but it was only his first year. He was the first rookie to finish in the top 6 PPR scoring in the last 11 years. It just shows what he's capable of. Just barely coming into the league. We know what Kirk Cousins is about. He provides inconsistent quarterback play at best, but at the same time, he still throws the ball. He still wings the ball around. They're still paying him a ton of money. They're still going to let him throw the ball. Adam Thielen eats. Justin Jefferson's going to eat. I've said this on past recordings. He's generational talent, and I don't want to miss out on this generational talent, because if he's Randy Moss 2.0, you're set for the next 10 years at least. 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns, 125 targets. The one that really sticks out to me is the 15.9 yards per reception. It was, I believe, second most amongst qualified wide receivers last year, behind DJ Moore, but we might get into him a little bit later on. But someone like Justin Jefferson just getting that opportunity, and he missed the first couple of games. He wasn't even starting, so to still put up those numbers, he's got nothing but superstar written all over him.
Absolutely, and I 100% agree on your analysis. I have him ranked 7th, however, and the reason for me is that it's just the rookie factor. Every year, guys come out, and usually it takes them a minute to get into get a feel for the NFL. Jefferson, like you mentioned, it was breaking records last year. It's a great sign, obviously. You can't argue with his numbers. The 88 catches, 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns are huge stats for any rookie. But now that teams are aware of him, they're going to adjust. We don't know if this is a consistent thing or he just caught everybody off guard last year. I prefer guys who I know what they're going to do year in and year out. And I mean, there's no doubt Jefferson is going to be on this list for a long time, and there's no doubt his value is sky high. I would take other guys over him, and the guy I take at 3 is Stephon Diggs. Diggs' first year in Buffalo, he led the league in targets. He had 127 catches, 1,535 yards, and 8 touchdowns, and he didn't even really get into a groove with Josh Allen until late in the season when fantasy playoffs last year. That guy, he won me my league. And he won. I know he won. I think he was the receiver on most teams that won the championships in fantasy football across the board. Stephon Diggs is that guy that you wanted last year, and he's done it throughout his career. When he was with Minnesota, he was still putting up huge numbers, and then you move into a new situation where he's the guy, and you think maybe coverage goes with it, and he puts up even bigger numbers. I like a guy like him who's still only 27. And in a perfect situation with a quarterback who he's going to be with for the rest of his career and only grow with. I really think that situation I would take over the slight questions with Justin Jefferson. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's slight questions. And like you briefly mentioned, it's the youth over the veterans there, and what's already producing. Even with the youth, Justin Jefferson is producing at an elite level. And so if we're saying potentially his baseline is 80 catches and 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns, I'm still taking that, and with room to grow, with a ton of room to grow. With Stephon Diggs, he had a fantastic year. I'm not going to discredit Stephon Diggs at all and what he did out there. And maybe that's what he needed, was that change of scenery and just getting out of Minnesota. But I want to say even in the past, Stephon Diggs was highly valuable, and he was on the other side of Adam Thielen, which Justin Jefferson happens to slot into now. So it's just one of those things. Yeah, it's youth that I'm taking over the veteran there. The upside, the opportunity. That's what it's all about for me, and that's what I do like just a tad bit more in Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I just like, for me, it's all about target share too. I mean, we're talking 40 40 more targets for Stephon Diggs compared to Justin Jefferson. I think Diggs gets you bigger numbers, and he's still young enough that in Dynasty he's more valuable. I like his quarterback situation a whole lot better with Josh Allen than Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins. So it's
for sure. I do still see some aggression from Stephon Diggs, though. I don't think he's going to see that number of targets again next year. They brought in Emmanuel Sanders. They really love Gabe Davis there, and so it's just going to be one of those things. I don't know if he's going to eat the same way. But again, not discrediting anything that Stephon Diggs has done or what he can do. Just as far as Dynasty goes, I don't have him as high regard as you do. I have him right around 8.
The Vikings also did just lose Riley Rife. He's playing right guard for them. He's more of a natural right tackle. But that's going to hurt because they have not invested anything into their offensive line. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why Cousins always struggles so much, because he doesn't have any time. He doesn't have any protection. If you actually, if they invested in it, gave him some more time to actually do something, then I think you put up a lot better numbers and also support better, better receivers.
As much as we like to, poop on Cousins, he's perennially providing us with 2 wide receiver ones in Dynasty, and so I don't know that that's a huge issue. With Kirk. I mean, Kirk's not good, a real life quarterback, but as far as fantasy goes, he can produce wide receiver ones.
Yeah, he can, and there's no doubt that Thielen's still on that list of wide receiver ones. It's just I do not like him. I don't trust him, and he's not signed. I think this is his last year, I think, of that 3-year deal. So we're not really sure moving forward.
They might have 2 more years, I think.
It might be. Was last year the first year? It might be 2 more years, but he's not.
I mean, I know we got $100 million guaranteed, so I mean he's doing something right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just an interesting situation to keep an eye on. Both, once again, these guys are so high on lists. They're both great. I just value the proven stats, and I think Diggs is going to give it to you again. And in fact, I think Diggs had a more of a down year on touchdowns with only 8. I think he'll surpass that this year. And I look for Diggs. I'll take Diggs over that.
And then we're going to look back at Pert's texted in list. Justin Jefferson sitting in there at 5, and he's got Diggs at 8.
Okay, yeah, so he doesn't like Diggs either. See, you guys and your youth movements. You love youth. I mean, I know you have a 4 too. Why don't you go ahead and go on another youth tangent and explain why you got him at 4? But I'm telling you, these vets.
I mean, how can you dislike AJ Brown?
Yeah,
come on. This high, he's first of all, he's a young, grown ass man. Yeah. Have you seen him play football?
Monster.
Yeah. He supposedly played how many games last year with busted up knees or something along those lines, and he had surgery after the season.
He had to have both of them cleaned out, both of them.
And he still had 1,000 yards, 70 catches, 11 touchdowns. Obviously, the touchdowns is kind of what helped save and salvage his year there. He did miss some time, and like we're talking about now, clearly he was banged up. but he's efficient. And here's why I say that. In 2019, he had 84 targets, which ranked 47th amongst wide receivers. In 2020, he had 106, which ranked 30th amongst wide receivers. Despite the lack of targets, he had the 15th most fantasy points in that span of time. So if the volume comes like it should, Corey Davis is gone, Jonnu Smith is gone. Obviously, Derrick Henry doesn't catch passes, and you still want to air it out with Ryan Tannehill. We have a monster on our hands, and there's no question he could certainly start to push those top guys for even the number one spot.
See, and I couldn't disagree with everyone more on A.J. Brown. I love the talent. It's there. I don't love his situation. Everyone is so high on this kid. Tennessee wants to run the ball. They give the ball to Derrick Henry and then run play action off of that. That's their entire offense. So I'm never the biggest fan of a receiver in a situation like that. He's not going to get the target share that these other guys are going to get. We're only talking about 84 targets in 2019 and 106 in 2020. Granted, he only
it's going up. That's going up though. So he played less games and got even more targets.
Well, when you got a guy like Diggs getting 160 targets and you got a guy like A.J. Brown getting 100, there's just not nearly as much opportunity for A.J. Brown. You're putting him at 4th in the entire league? Come on now. That's way too high. I mean, he's 24. Yeah, he's talented.
Opportunity and upside. I love his upside far more than I like a Stephon Diggs upside, because it goes back to even just making big plays. Stephon Diggs, his average depth of target, I believe, was below 10, which, I mean, he's still getting it right at the sticks and he's moving the ball. But A.J. Brown's going to take a 5-yard, 6-yard slant, and he can take that to the house, and he's going to muscle guys off while he's doing it. Yep. And the fact he's got 5 years less than Diggs in the league, I'm prepared to put a rocket ship on his back and let's go to the moon.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, you're going to get those boom and bust games out of him. You're going to be games where they need to rely on the run game, which is what they do, and he's just not going to see the targets. I mean, when you got a guy like...
Who else are they going to throw the ball to, though?
They just signed Josh Reynolds, but that's about it as far as their receiving core. There's a lot of rumors out there they are going to sign someone else, but yeah, right now, Josh Reynolds is it.
And that, to me, that's almost more of a knock on him. He is going to be the number one now. Corey Davis is gone. And Jonnu Smith's gone. I mean, they're gonna focus their attention on A.J. Brown. I don't see him producing at the same level that everyone thinks.
Like you're saying, if they're a run heavy team, they're going to see more 8-man boxes. You're going to get man to man opportunities, and man to man, A.J. Brown, I'm taking that guy over. A lot of people in the league.
For me, talent's there. I agree with that. I think he is probably the most talented of the youngsters on this list. So just pure skill-wise, the man can makes plays, and like you said, he's a man amongst boys. I don't like the target share. I don't like that he's number one and we don't know exactly his situation. I still love him. I value him highly. He's 6 on my board. It's not like he's much lower. I just think people overvalue A.J. Brown.
I just don't get that knock. The target share. I think the target share is going to go up. He's only going to get more opportunities now with less mouths to feed.
Absolutely, I think he will get more targets too, but I don't think. I don't know how he's going to respond to it. I think you take the proven vets over guys like this. That's why I have 4.
And I get what you're saying. The guys are putting the numbers on paper, but let's give A.J. Brown 160 targets. He's blowing Stephon Diggs out of the water with his numbers.
But he's not getting 160 targets. He's not going to get 160 targets.
Well, we don't know that. He's the only guy in that receiver room.
And also, is he going to get those red zone targets too? I think is a big one here.
Right, but DeAndre Hopkins, you got a guy right now who's averaged or has had 150 plus targets for 6 years in a row, and you're going to tell me you're going to take A.J. Brown over that kind of production, plus the catches that DeAndre Hopkins makes, which is why I have him at 4. I mean, I was telling you before we went live, if you take the top 10 highlight catches of the last 10 years, I guarantee he nukes 5 of them at least. That catch in the Hail Mary last year, over 3 defenders, absolutely insane. I think he might be the greatest receiver of all time, and he's still only 29. I understand in Dynasty everyone loves that youth movement, but you're going to get at least 3 to 5 more good years out of Hopkins. You know you're getting tons of numbers. I mean, what do you have? 115 catches, 1,407 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He didn't even have a lot of touchdowns last year, and he still put up giant numbers. In a PPR league, this guy's a monster. And he's on a team with a young quarterback that's up and coming in a great situation. I love DeAndre Hopkins, and I don't know how you can take this youth question marks over a guy who's been doing it for 8 seasons.
Well, because one thing that witnessed is that with these elite receivers, it's not something that's going to be a gradual decline. They fall off a cliff. It's not something that's going to be like, oh, he's having a down year. Oh, he had another down year. It'll start to just kind of fall off for them. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen to him, which is why I still have him inside the top 10. But right now, I mean, at 29 years old, I mean, our boy Julio Jones started to fall off right around 28, 29 years old. Don't get me wrong. He's still very elite when he's on the field and he can make plays. Flashy catches don't win you fantasy championships, though. Okay. So no, and yes, and like I said, I can't argue with what Nook is putting on the field, but again, I'm just going to take the younger, more upside, get him the opportunity. He could be the next Nook, or like you touched on, he could be the next Terrell Owens, which it's a Hall of Fame worthy career that he could be having. And I'm like I said, I'm not taking anything away from DeAndre Hopkins, but in a dynasty league where I have to think about the next 5 years, I want to have more security there and more peace of mind knowing what I can do at that wide receiver 1 position.
I do got to point out to the helmet right over Thomas's shoulder as well. AJ Green drafted the same year as Julio Jones, and he dropped off the cliff. We'll see if he changes it all playing across from Nuke right now. But man, that's tough, man.
Injuries just linger. They just linger. The injuries, the hamstrings, the ankles, they just linger for wide receivers over time.
But Nook hasn't had them ever. He's played every single game. He's missed 2 games in his career.
But he's always on the sheet. He's always on the injury report.
But he still he gets 150 plus targets every single year. And you're going to tell me you want a guy who is hopefully getting more targets over him? He gets more receptions than some of these other receivers get targets. And given the stat that I gave earlier, I mean, with how efficient he is, 15th most fantasy points over the last 2 years, AJ Brown, and he's not getting opportunities. Right. That's bottom end wide receiver 1. I don't see how he's going to get less opportunities going forward. But you're talking about bottom end wide receiver 1 as the 4th best receiver in the league in Dynasty. That's what you ranked him, number 4. Whereas I got the actual guy who's putting up the numbers at number 4. Give me the guy who's going to win me a championship. You can go ahead and take your youth movement and keep getting 2nd and 3rd place every year. Or you can get that guy who wins. Why don't you win a week?
Ouch.
Actually, you won twice.
You're talking to the wrong guy, bro.
Where's Danny? We get Danny.
I was gonna say it's a good time for a quick Danny update here. So we got for him number 4, AJ Brown. So per degrees there. And then if we're talking about Hopkins, he has him at number 7.
Yeah. See, but look, the numbers don't lie. And 115 catches on 160 targets, and with a great situation, I'm taking him every single time. Granted, it also depends on your situation. In Dynasty, with a guy like Hopkins, like you said, he's about to fall off a cliff. You're probably riding him out. This is going to be the time to sell him if you're going to sell him, because he's going to regress at some point.
Which is why I am devaluing him a little, because now you're freaking out. Now I have to get out of the DeAndre Hopkins business. I have to go find a partner to make a trade with. With AJ Brown, you're set. You know what you have there at wide receiver 1. But and he's got a high evaluation as well.
You can sell him and get some value now. So if you're a rebuilding team, I say absolutely sell him. Or you ride him until he's done. So you have 5 more years of great talent. I've got Adam Thielen on my Dynasty roster. I love having that guy. Nobody wants him, and I still start him every week and win leagues. So why would you not want a guy like that? It's okay to ride out a guy to the end of his career.
Don't lie to the fans. You don't start Adam Thielen every week, okay?
I did start Adam Thielen.
I don't know.
You can start him a lot. I mean, like, he didn't play very much the first few years. He's one of those where his body is not broken down yet. And also he does play a style of play where he does, like, it's a little bit more prone to playing later in life.
Yeah, I'm just saying D-Hop's a guy who's going to be – he stays healthy. He does things the right way. Quarterback loves him there. He gets all the targets. That's a guy I want on my team. And I do not agree with taking youth and hope over a proven commodity that's going to win you a league.
I mean, it's not hope, though, because the numbers back up that A.J. Brown's also a proven commodity with less targets than DeAndre Hopkins. So on a per-game basis, like, yes, I'm going to have a guy who's putting up the same numbers, if not better numbers, than a guy who, yes, given the opportunity, is doing that. Like I said, I don't see A.J. Brown getting less opportunity. And even with the opportunity he has, he's top 15.
Yeah, I can understand that.
That's not hoping. That's knowing he's a monster.
Yeah, no, he is a monster, and I agree. That's why I have him at 6. But I'm still going to take a guy who I know what I'm going to get out of next year over the hope. And we're talking when I'm talking the 4th best player at his position in Dynasty. You got to take a guy you know is that 4th best player. Whereas AJ Brown, we're like, oh, he's probably going to be that good. And yes, I agree. That's why I have him at 6. But he's not. You can't take him over a guy like DeAndre Hopkins who gets ridiculous targets, receptions, yards, touchdowns every single year and always has.
You just keep saying one key word. It's dynasty, and that's why I have the AJ Brown higher than DeAndre Hopkins and just the older crew of guys. Like I said, you can't discredit what they're doing, but it makes you have to address this a lot sooner than you really want to, like the next couple of years soon. As for with the young guys, you're looking at 10 years of solid elite production.
Trying to flip him, and usually you should. In Dynasty, you do want to flip guys. You want to obviously stay young and get assets and trade your guys when they're at their peak value if you can, to get as much as you can out of them to improve your team for the future.
I'm just saying, in a dynasty startup, I still don't see people valuing DeAndre Hopkins like the number 4 receiver in startups. No, I don't see that at all.
No, probably not. But I also think that's why you win leagues when you get guys like that. I think those are guys to trade for if you're trying to win, and I think those are guys you trade if you're rebuilding. So it obviously depends on your situation. But Hopkins, you can't argue that he's going to be, again, next year, he's going to have 160 targets, and he's going to have 100-plus catches. That we know that will happen. We don't know if A.J. Brown's going to respond to being the number 1 with that huge target share that you're hoping he has, which I think he will too.
I'm not hoping. I mean, it's clearly going up. You know, he had 84 in 2019, 106 in 2020. That's going up. That's 20. That's 22 more targets. If he gets another 22 more targets next year,
we'll see. We will see.
At least.
And they do have the 22nd pick in the draft also, so you can't guarantee that they're going to pull out great receiver talent. So,
yeah, I can see them going receiver too. They do need, but they also lost a lot on defense in Tennessee. You talking about? Mm-hmm. So they're going to need to replenish that side too. We'll see. I mean, the draft's coming up. We're going to see. We're going to know a lot more after the draft for sure.
Mm-hmm. Truth.
Who you got at 5, Thomas?
I got DK Metcalf at 5.
Yeah.
Again, another young stud there that I want to say he's in a good situation, but this past offseason has made me step back and reevaluate that a little bit. At the end of last year, I'm not going to lie, I had him number 2 behind Tyreek Hill at certain points, just given his age and his elite upside. But this offseason's happened. The Russell Wilson talks have happened. They just brought back Chris Carson. Now, they did sign, I believe, Gabe Jackson from the Raiders, which is going to help out tremendously on that line there. I believe, I'll have to look this one back up. I believe Gabe Jackson started 10 seasons and only allowed 10 sacks in his entire career. Wow. So it's going to be a pretty solid upgrade there. But what we saw last year was a tale of 2 seasons. The first 8 weeks, DK Metcalf was running away with the number 1 wide receiver spot. The last 8 weeks of the season, he was a middling wide receiver too, and so you can't argue with the upside, but with opportunities like that, if they start to turn to that run game, aren't going to be there late in the season, and in fantasy seasons, that's our playoffs, and so that's when you kind of have to start to think about what to do with guys like that, but. 83 receptions last year, 10 touchdowns. I love to see that. I've fallen in love with this stat, average depth of target. And last year he had a 13.7. So I mean, the fact that he's just getting targeted downfield like that, that they're trying to push it down the field, and then the fact that he's so big and strong, he can make plays after the catch.
Yeah, see, it's interesting. You had the 3 young guys in a row. You went Jefferson, Brown, Metcalf. I have the 3 young guys in a row for me next, 5, 6, 7, Metcalf, Brown, Jefferson. And the reason I take Metcalf on top of the other 2 is just the absolute freak level of talent that he has. All 3 of them put up pretty similar numbers at this point. DK gets into the end zone more than the other 2, I think. I like his situation with Russell Wilson. But I mean, you remember the memes and seeing everything go around with him chasing down Buda Baker. The guy's a competitor, and it reminds me in just about every single way of Terrell Owens. I mean, he looks like T.O. He's built like T.O. He has the slight hand issues that T.O. has, where he has a few drops and doesn't quite look like the most coordinated guy at times. But you can't stop him. I mean, teams are scared of that guy, and who wouldn't be? He's 6'4", 240, and bench. How much he bench? I mean, he's built like he's like a guy.
He's a Mack truck.
He is like and a human being, and I think he's going to be great for years to come. I like his situation more. I like the depth of target. I like he's a deep threat. He's good deep. He's good short. He's good everywhere, and I see him as having a Hall of Fame career. The only questions and the reason I put him at 5 are just his target share. We're not sure if he's going to continue to get. He doesn't get the elite targets that some of these other receivers get. And like you said, tale of 2 seasons. He disappeared when teams started keying on him. I didn't like seeing that too. So I dropped him a little bit just for that. But as far as the young talent goes, I think he is the best of them.
Yeah, and then Pert does have him sitting at number 3. Looks like he's going with a youth moon as well. But yeah, number 3 for DK Metcalf.
Yeah, I see. I put DK at the top for the young guys too. It's just you can't argue with that. The guy's ridiculously big. He's too talented.
And like you were saying, when they started to actually hone in on him a little bit, because he is such a competitor, you see him get frustrated, and it's all visible, and it causes friction on the sidelines, and he's sitting by himself or he's pouting. He's a wide receiver. He's a diva, like a majority of them are. But you can't argue with his physical talents and the fact that he is starting to get worked in more underneath, as opposed to just being that deep threat. Yeah. But the reason I have him at 5 and not as high as I did ending last year is because of the Russell Wilson uncertainty. Yes, he's there. Yes, he's signed. But is that relationship damaged beyond repair? Yes, he should be the starting quarterback coming up, but do they look to go a different direction? Do they not let Russ cook anymore? Do they start running the ball with Chris Carson, who they just paid, I believe, $8 million, $9 million to return as their starting running back? Target shares, those things is why I have him at 5. Yeah. But for all the positives that we named, is exactly why I have him at 5.
Yeah, and I mean that's why we're still talking about top 10 guys, and for me, the reason I have him as the best of the young guys is just because his, he's just better. He's just a better player. There was a stat I was thinking of. I'm trying to get it back in my mind. I don't remember. It was just over Justin Jefferson. I think. Oh yeah, DK. He's raw. His not coming out of college was his raw talent. He's just not a refined route runner. He doesn't know how to handle the big complicated offenses in the NFL, which to me says that his ceiling isn't even hit yet. I mean, he's just going to get exponentially better. Whereas guys like Justin Jefferson, who's also great, I just don't know how much better he's going to get. He had a huge season as a rookie. I just see teams possibly coming and keying on him. I think I like DK's potential more than I like Justin Jefferson's.
But let's be real about one thing here, Adam. Before you won your championship just recently, you were a middling team, dude, and it's because of comments like that, man. Justin Jefferson didn't come in raw that way, and that's why I do have him ranked the way I do. He didn't come in raw. Like I said, he's already a polished, refined wide receiver, putting up 1,400 yards in his rookie season. You don't think he's going to get much better? He's 21 years old.
Oh, I think he's going to get better. Absolutely. I
don't understand how you can't build off of that. If DK does it and he still stays raw, I can see I can see Justin Jefferson having 100 reception seasons. I don't necessarily see that with DK.
I don't either, but I see the touchdown staying the same with DK.
I see Justin Jefferson being a home run threat as I do DK.
I don't see Jefferson as that home run threat. I think we saw a lot more of his a really good season as a rookie, and I think teams are going to start catching on.
Do you even watch football? Oh my god!
I just love DK's talent, man. I think DK is going to be a better receiver in the end in fantasy than Justin Jefferson, and I don't know if Jefferson can replicate these numbers year in year out. Still got him at 7 though. It's not like I have him low. Yeah. I would take Justin Jefferson in any league. Maybe like you said, maybe it's my Eagles post-draft bias because I'm just mad we didn't take him.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you've just been sad for the entire year, just the entire year plus. It's rough, Adam. I'm sorry.
Well, the Eagles are terrible, so we're gonna get on. If none of them are on this list. You can.
Hey, everyone on this call knows how that goes.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Yeah. Thomas, do you have a 6 again, 7? Do we go back? Are we back in the same guys? Oh no, I remember at 6 you have a different guy.
At 6, I've got, and maybe there's a little bit of bias here, but I still love all the potential and everything he flashed last year. CD Lamb, again, with the like we're calling it the youth movement, but the fact that these guys are coming out and producing at an elite level already, I don't understand how you can pass these guys up. Just a few numbers I have here in the slot amongst rookies last year. CD Lamb was first in receptions with 69, first in yards with 877, and first in touchdowns with 5. 111 targets overall, and that's after losing Dak Prescott for that in that 4 weeks that he was out of there. You've got first round draft capital invested in CD Lamb. You just signed Dak Prescott back. That's arguably one of the best offenses in the league. The sky's the limit here.
Absolutely. No, I have him at 9 just because of the question marks with all the targets in Dallas. We don't know how he and Dak will get along. We don't know if Dak will spread the ball his way. He had a huge year, obviously, as a rookie. More than you would expect out of a rookie. But 74 catches for 935 yards and 5 touchdowns isn't bigger than these other receivers in my mind. And because we don't know, yes, of course he's going to get better. I see him as possibly being the best of this group. I think he could be the number 1 receiver next year, 2 years, 3 years from now. So I definitely would get CD. But right now, I don't put him that high just because we're talking about speculation, whereas I'll take the guys who I know are going to give me that production and have been giving that production and will continue to get that production over a guy who we're hoping will eventually be great, because there have been plenty of receivers in dynasty leagues that you take who look great and are going to be great and then just taper out or fall off their quarterback situation or a trade. Odell Beckham was a great example. He was everyone's talking Odell, he's the best, this, and all of a sudden moves to Cleveland, doesn't get the target shares, has a bad year, bad on the sidelines. Now Odell's not on anybody's list. No one's even talking about him.
His injuries, too, though, did play a factor in that.
Absolutely. But I'd rather have a guy with a situation that I know. And that's why I take the older guys over a guy like CD who, I'm sure he will be that high. But putting him at 6 over all the other receivers in the league already, Thomas, that's a stretch, man. I do have time.
In a dynasty, I don't think it's speculation when we already know for sure they're going to get out from the Amari Cooper contract next year. So Amari is gone. Gallup, I don't think they're going to resign Gallup.
Yeah.
So now you've got CD Lamb, number 1 wide receiver with Dak Prescott throwing you the ball.
Yeah,
I don't think I would rather speculate on that guy than having to speculate on a move I have to make to get out from a veteran wide receiver and definitely probably get pennies on the dollar, not even get full value for those guys because the dynasty community values youth.
Absolutely, and that's why I have them on my list too. You have to have these guys on the list. Dynasty community, everyone loves the young guy. I think these veterans get thrown away too quickly in my mind. Guys who continually produce. Whereas you have that hope with CD Lamb, and you're right, we know he's going to be a big name in the league for a long time, and he's 22 right now, or he's 21 right now. He's going to be 22 this summer, so he's just going to get better and better in a good system with a great quarterback who just was signed to a long-term deal. The kid is talented. Like I said, he's probably going to be number 1 on this list sooner than later. Not now. And that's why I have him all the way down at 9. Because
I don't have him at 1. I have him at 6. But the fact that he's on his way.
Yeah, he's on. I mean, I think. I just love the proven commodities more than I love the youth, and that's why my whole list is based on. Like I said, I had DK at 5, AJ at 6, Justin Jefferson at 7, CD's 9 for me because I got Michael Thomas in there at 8, who I threw on my list. Everyone is down on Michael Thomas because he had a bad year for once because he was hurt. And now you're talking about a guy who has the best career catch percentage in the history of the NFL, 77.6. He catches every slant because that's all he runs. Teams know he's going to run it. He catches it every single time. Even with Taysom Hill in there, he had 37 in the 4 games with Taysom Hill. Even though Drew Brees will be gone next year, he still had 37 targets, 30 catches, 343 yards. The down year was the fact that he doesn't get in the end zone as often. But the targets are coming to Michael Thomas. I want that guy who is the guy who's been the guy for years, who was the number one receiver on this list more recently. I'll take him over a young guy like CeeDee Lamb, who we're not quite sure how he will fit in the long run yet. Whereas I know what I'm getting out of Michael Thomas. I would take him over CeeDee right now.
Well, to combat that, we actually don't know what we're going to be getting out of Michael Thomas this upcoming year because he doesn't have Drew Brees throwing him the ball anymore. Yes, he was so consistent and putting up 150 targets and over 100 catches, 120 catches. That's Drew Brees. We don't know how he's going to look with this new quarterback. Yeah, we had a small sample with Taysom Hill. Excuse me, is Taysom Hill going to be the starter? We don't know. There's just so much uncertainty there. If you want to talk about speculation, that's what we could speculate on. What kind of Michael Thomas is going to show up? Is he going to still get those dink and dunks anymore? Drew Brees was notorious for that. That's how he fed Michael Thomas. If Michael Thomas can't do that anymore, what does Michael Thomas do?
Right, but why are we saying if? Because Michael Thomas is on the same system. Sean Payton runs the same system. When Taysom Hill was in, if you take those 4-game stats and extrapolate it out to a full season, we're talking, 148 targets for 120 catches and for 1,300 yards. That's fine. That's still Michael Thomas. He's still one of the best receivers. That's
speculation.
No, that's
speculation. I still have him at 15, but again, I'm taking just younger guys with more upside, just over that. He fell off very badly last year, and yes, he was injured, but who's to say those injuries don't carry over to this next season? I believe he's going to be 29 next season, and it's another one of those things. He's getting older. He's getting more banged up, and like I had mentioned earlier, they don't just taper off; they fall off.
Yeah, but you're always doing I hate that wool or crying wolf for the sky is falling. Watch out for these old guys; they might actually get old at some point. We're talking 28. That's a prime receiver in his prime. The guys don't fall off until they're in their 30s, mid-30s. Larry Fitzgerald's 39, and he still puts up.
I think Michael Thomas was
37, I believe, but still, he's older than us. He's one of those few relevant professional football players that is actually older than we are.
Michael Thomas came into last season ranked the number 1 Dynasty wide receiver. I believe he finished outside the top 100 overall players.
Yeah, well, he was hurt all year, and he had about.
But even when he was there, Dak Prescott had more receiving touchdowns than Michael Thomas this past year.
Yeah. Yeah, no touchdowns was the big factor. That's
huge. Yes, I love the fact you catch the ball 10 times a game. But if you're not going to score me any touchdowns and you're going to barely rack up 1,250 yards, I got you at 15. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, this isn't even guaranteed.
You don't take the win every week with a guy you're getting 15 points every single week from because he's going to get the targets and the catches. I mean, how
did it work out for fantasy owners for Michael Thomas last year?
It's like that with every year. If you get an injury, you're going to have a bad year. That's just what happens.
But it was one injury. He came back and got another injury. They start to just compound. He's not getting younger, and he's not going to come back feeling better.
He never been hurt in the past.
I also do have to point out.
And now it's starting.
I do have to point out. So he declined actually having surgery early in the season because he knew that it was going to be Brees last season. Right. So we actually played through it. He did get hurt some more. In the offseason, he had surgery on his deltoid, along with other injured ligaments in his high ankle. So, I mean, that's not just one surgery. That's a decent amount of repair that had to go on that he skipped on just so he could keep playing with Brees for his last year.
Absolutely. And every year when he plays a full season, he gets 100 catches and 9 touchdowns on average, just about. That's and 1,200 to 1,500 yards. We're looking at a guy who has been elite, is elite, and is still like. I just don't understand how he falls off because he gets hurt.
I just think the landscape is still going to be different in New Orleans without Drew Brees.
Yeah, and I can understand that's one knock and one question that I have on him that I will give because we do not know for sure that quarterback situation will be great. That's why I have him lower at 8. But I think 8
I have him at 15. I have him at 15. I don't think that's necessarily shitting on the guy, but I think it's taking these younger guys who we know what their roles are, and we kind of know what they're going to start to provide for us over the next 10 years. We don't know what Michael Thomas is going to provide for us this year, let alone the next 5 years.
But like I was saying with Odell, you don't know what you're going to get out of these guys over the next 10 years. They had 1 year. Justin Jefferson has 1 year in the NFL, and you're telling me now you know his entire career? You're going to put him in the Hall of Fame already? Because you can't.
The career trajectory is that of a Hall of Famer, yes.
Yes, what? After 1 season? I actually put real Hall of Fame.
It was a historic season. He had greater rookie seasons than people in the Hall of Fame. So I mean,
more than 1 year. Yeah, I mean, you'd be a terrible voter for the Hall of Fame too.
Oh my god!
I mean, the Hall of Fame also, you can't like judge everything off of that. Where's T.O. in the Hall of Fame?
But T.O. is in the Hall of Fame.
No, he's not.
He should be.
He absolutely should be.
Too political, man. It's too political.
He will be. He will eventually be. Don't worry about that.
Eventually.
He has his own Hall of Fame ceremony, so he's fine. I don't think he cares anymore.
He absolutely. I mean, I love T.O. He's an incredible player. It doesn't matter if he ran the mouth a bit. I think that even that bumps it up.
Yeah, I love me some me. You gotta love some of them quotes. He's a great guy.
Right. I also do have to real quick interject. So Michael Thomas not in Dan Pert's top 10.
Yeah, I know. No one likes.
So it seems like there's a lot of similarities between Danny and Thomas here, where Adam, you seem to be a bit of the outlier.
That's because I'm tired of you guys valuing youth so much. There are actual players who do things that are more valuable.
Your veteran trades worked out for you 1 year. Other than that, you've got these veteran players just lollygagging around on your roster. You know.
Well, when I win the championship again next year, why don't you talk to me about it?
Ooh, 2 belts.
Yeah, exactly. I get another bobblehead. Where's my bobblehead?
Can't no one back to back like me. All right,
We'll see.
Two time.
Win the big league, Thomas.
Ooh.
Why don't you win the big league once?
Hey, it was my first year in. All right, I'm well on my way. So I'm the Justin Jefferson of that league, baby.
Who's next on your list? I don't think we got to your 7, Thomas, or did we talk about that earlier?
No, my 7 is Calvin Ridley, and I sat and really argued with myself to have him higher. But again, yes, maybe I see too much value in the youth and the upside there, but Calvin Ridley is not old by any means, and the fact that he's just been putting up consistent wide receiver 1 numbers since he's come into the league, I think he's a little underrated and a little disrespected. We see that he can move the ball in between the 20s. His average up the target 14.3. He had 143 targets last year, and that's with Julio still on the team. Granted, Julio missed some time, but even the year before that, he was right around 100, I believe, 11 targets.
No, he's at 90. He had 90
receptions.
Targets. Yeah, he had 92 targets in 2018.
The year before. Okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So he's not getting that. That's why I have him lower on my list. The target share is my issue with him.
Well, it's going up. You don't. He's taking over wide receiver 1. Julio is still there. He's still a great elite talent. Calvin Ridley is that guy.
Yeah, I think Calvin Ridley moving forward is going to be that guy. He last year 90 catches, 1,374 yards, 9 touchdowns. Well, I think we're going to expect more of that out of Calvin Ridley. I have him lower on my list. I have him at 10 because we don't know for sure. We have seen him in the league for 3 years. He had 2 years that were pedestrian. I mean, 64 catches and 800 yards and 10 touchdowns is not top material, top 10 material in my opinion. And he did that for 2 years before he's been given the expanded role as he was last year. They're finally starting to use him more. Like all the youth that you have on your list, he's going to get better, but because he has not been as good, I have him lower on my list, and we're not sure if he will consistently. Was last year the outlier? Was last year the weird year where he had all the targets, or is that the norm now? We don't know that for a guy like him, which is why I still have him lower.
But that's why we're here though, is to steer people in that direction. That's going to be the new norm. He's going to continue to get the target share. And one thing I really love about him, I touched that he moves the ball in between the 20s in the red zone. Last year, he had 31 red zone targets. From the inside the 20, he had 7. Inside the 10, he had 5 touchdowns. You love to see that. So they're involving him, obviously, in the center of the field, and they're involving him heavily in the red zone. So you love to see that he's going to get a huge target share. He's going to rack up a ton of yards, eat up that yardage, and and then on top of that, they emphasize involving him in the red zone, and so that's where it was getting tough for me. Do I put him higher than where I have him? And I really wanted to, but I just ended up liking the other guys more than I did right now for him.
Yeah, my issue with him, keeping him at 10, which is still high. I mean, he's still 10th best in the league, in my opinion. But he's 26. He'll be 27 this season, and he's been in the league for 3 years and really hasn't had that breakout year. Last year, where you could say that was it, but I don't know if that's the out. Like I said, is that the outlier? Is that the norm? I think it's the norm. You think it's the norm. It's probably going to be the norm, but the question marks is why I keep him a little bit lower on my list.
Also, I mean, like you just said, he was drafted at 24. So he's drafted as an older player.
Yeah.
Typically, we talk about receivers. When you draft them, you have to expect to wait for a few years at least. We're getting spoiled this past year with people breaking out immediately. Mm-hmm. So he broke out in his third year, even though he is older. He's drafted at 24, so he's young, or he's older coming into the league. So I think it was a big thing there. Pert, again, I'm representing his interest in this podcast here. Pert had him at 6.
Yeah. I mean, look, really had a great season last year. He's got a good quarterback situation, and they're going to throw the ball because they can't stop anybody. So he's going to get targets. I just think the fact that he's been in a situation like that 4 years and hasn't produced to the level that we would hope yet consistently, that'll give me put him under some of these other guys who have, and I think will. And then for the youth guys, I just like that they're younger compared to him being 27 this year and not having had that breakout consistency yet. I'm a little concerned on that end, but I still have him at 10.
I mean, you're going back and forth between the youth movement and the old guys. Like, there for a long time, we like the older guys. Well, older guys. Because we're all old.
I'm literally older than old.
We're talking, but these are like still elite receivers. They're still putting up good numbers. I'll take the older guys with even better numbers over the younger guys with projected to be possibly better numbers eventually.
And we're talking top 10 out of realistically, so we'll say 64. Because typically there's at least two, at least somewhat fantasy relevant receivers per team. Even if the second receiver on the team is garbage, there's still.
Oh, there are plenty. We could do a top 100 receivers, and there are teams with those receivers on their team. So we're just sticking to the elite of the elite. And
like the stupid Cowboys that have 1 million receivers for no reasons.
Absolutely, this is still going to be a top. Yeah, exactly. On the Cowboys alone, you have 3 fantasy relevant receivers. So, Thomas, we haven't gotten to the rest of your list. I've already closed mine out. Who do you have at 8, 9, and 10?
I briefly touched on them earlier. I got Diggs at 8, Hopkins at 9, with the proven commodities again, just behind the youthfulness, if you will. But my number 10, and I mean, I don't know, this might be a little splashy, and this is maybe more speculation too, but I've got Terry McLaurin as of my top 10, rounding out my top 10. I think as a whole, the Washington football team is a team to keep your eye on for fantasy production this upcoming year and beyond. Fitzpatrick is coming to town, which I think is going to help him just because, again, going back to the ADOT, which I've just been in love with lately, his rookie season, he had a 13.25 ADOT. Last year, it went down to, I believe it was 9.4. And so inconsistent quarterback play obviously wasn't helping him. I think he was a little banged up. I think he played 15 or 14 games last year. But he's another one of those guys, just young, super upside. With Fitzpatrick, we know he's notorious for slinging it downfield and making wide receiver ones elite. And so that's one thing I'm really excited for him about. But just the fact that he's got some help now, that are going to help alleviate the pressure and the coverage that he'll see. And he's going to start to make some big plays.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the Curtis Samuel signing is going to be helpful or hurtful in his target share, because he was the only thing in Washington before, and he put up pretty decent numbers. But like as you mentioned, the quarterback situation is really upsetting to me. I don't like it. I mean, everyone loves Fitzmagic, but he's just another average quarterback in there, just like Alex Smith was, just like Dwayne Haskins. I mean, unless they draft a quarterback and really make an upgrade at that position, I have him off my list for that. I just don't know. Too many question marks for him, and he's still not putting up those elite fantasy numbers to be top 10. I do have him at 11, but he's not quite in that top 10 yet. 87 catches for 1,118 yards, 4 scores last year with bad quarterback play. I don't like that he doesn't get in the end zone a lot, and just I think there are receivers that are better. I like his potential, as you mentioned. There is a chance that he could have a huge breakout year, and I know he's a big target for a lot of people right now. I just keep him out for the reasons we listed.
I don't see Curtis Samuel hurting his wide receiver value at all. If anything, I see Curtis Samuel's hurting J.D. McKissick's value and maybe a little bit of Antonio Gibson's value. But Terry McLaurin is still wide receiver 1 there. He gets the ball underneath. He gets the ball down the field. He's just going to be the guy there. And I just think, like I said, with this whole team as a whole, they could be fantasy gold and possibly being looked over to start the year.
Yeah, possibly with their Washington. Washington's always a joke, and there's always
we got Ron Rivera there now. I mean, you got a culture change. He's cleaned the house. He literally cut Dwayne Haskins, who was their first round quarterback 2 years ago. He's like, you just don't fit the mold of what I want. Have a nice day. And he's gone. And so I really do feel, I mean, their defense has already shown glimpses of being very elite. Chase Young is an absolute monster on that side of the ball. You got Montez Sweat on the other side. They've got a defense that's going to certainly keep them in games. And now they're putting an offense into place that's going to start to help them win games.
Yeah.
Also, Dan Snyder just took out a $450 million loan to buy out all the minority shareholders of the Washington football team. So either he is trying to just lock it down and just take complete control, or there's a lot of talk about the actual NFL owners and the rest of everyone else trying to push him out. And so he's consolidating so we can get that maximum $3.6 billion that they're estimated to be sold for.
Yeah, Dan Snyder's one of the worst owners in the league, in my opinion. But
100%. 100%.
He needs to be out of the league, and I hope that that's what's happening, because with him buying the entire team, I could see him doing what he usually does and running into the ground. He runs it like a business and doesn't really value his players as much as he should. And I think that's why Washington has struggled for as long as it has.
And there are a lot of scandals following him, too. That cheerleader scandal is horrendous. And he should have been pushed out just for that. They shouldn't have taken this long. I feel like the name change was partial to kind of balance it out, but he should be gone.
Owner aside, though, I feel like the culture is changing there, and they've certainly positioned themselves to be a more competitive team. I wouldn't say that they're the Washington teams of past. I think that they're really going to surprise a lot of people this upcoming year, and even, like I said, for fantasy, it's a team to definitely keep your eye on and maybe get some assets if you can.
Yeah, I have him at 11. Like I said, he's still going to be good. I'm not sure he's quite at that elite level yet, but he's definitely a guy to target. A couple other honorable mentions on my end. Keenan Allen, I think, is worth looking at. You don't like those older guys, but he's in a great situation with a rookie quarterback who trusts him, or a young quarterback now. And Allen Robinson, it's the quarterback situation in Chicago that's the issue with him. But talent-wise, that guy puts some numbers every year.
Dalton can support some decent receivers. He's not a great quarterback, but he can support some decent fantasy receivers.
Right. And any honorable mentions for you, Thomas? No, not one else you want to mention.
I got to jump in from Danny's list. The last one that we did not talk about, he has at number 9, DJ Moore.
Yeah, I know he loves DJ Moore. I don't, and we're going to get to that in a minute, because I do that on another list, and we'll talk about him. So we'll get to that in a second. Let's go to the buys, though. Thomas, who's your big buy right now?
Just kind of putzing around a little bit here. The biggest buy I saw, at least it's not being super highly valued, that could, I'm looking to more buy to win my league, but stay kind of young here. Tyler Boyd is somebody that is undervalued, and again, I think a little disrespected. With Joe Burrow quarterback, he averaged 16.24 fantasy points, which put him right at 14th amongst wide receivers. So that's high-end wide receiver 2, and on some weeks, low-end wide receiver 1. He's been able to produce with other wide receiver 1s on the field, like he was able to demonstrate with AJ Green. So he's got T. Higgins on the other side, which again, Joe Burrow should be able to support both those guys the same way that Andy Dalton did for years with AJ Green and I believe Houshmandzadeh, and they hit one more guy, right? Help me out there. Who was the guy that?
So it was AJ Green and Boyd for a long time with the Dalton era as well. Houshmandzadeh and Ochocinco were more of the Carson Palmer era.
Ones. True. Fair.
Houshmandzadeh was my favorite Bengal, though. Just honorable mention there.
He was the one who did the front flip into the end zone, right?
Jerome Simpson.
There, okay. Either way, he seems to get a lot of work done in the slot, and so I don't feel right now that people are valuing him super high. So if you can go out and finesse Tyler Boyd on a team that's maybe one piece away, you could certainly be hoisting up a championship trophy.
Yeah, I love Tyler Boyd. I think he's one of the most underrated receivers too. I could definitely see that as a buy. My buys are two of them. It would be the two underperforming rookies from last year, Jalen Reagor and Henry Ruggs. Look, we all know they had bad seasons. They're on terrible teams. And they weren't even expected to do a lot going into last year, and they really underperformed from that, which is hard to say, which is why I think you need to get them now, because there's a reason Ruggs was the number one receiver off the board last year, and Reagor was a first-round draft pick. The Eagles have no other talent at the receiver position. Reagor is going to be the guy getting all the targets from Hurts, and even if they draft another talented receiver, which they're going to most likely in this draft, Reagor is still the guy there. He's going to either be wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 on that team, and he's electric. You saw when he got the ball in his hands, he made plays. They just couldn't get the ball in his hands. He had the worst quarterback in the league throwing in the ball last year in Carson Wentz, and now I'm not saying Hurts is going to be a ton better, but you have a chance to get a young kid who can help you for years to come. At cheap, I would be looking to buy Reagor in any league I'm in, and same with Ruggs. Ruggs, deep threat. You're going to get big numbers out of him. He can bust loose on any play. He just never really got on the field and didn't get the consistent targets that we look for. But there's not a whole lot of competition around him in Vegas, and he's going to be the guy moving forward with that high draft capital, as you like to talk about, Thomas, on his name. John Brown definitely addition in Vegas hurts his value. They're the exact same kind of player, so I'm kind of curious why they signed Brown. But we all know that the Davises love speed in with the Raiders, so I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. But
they also love fast players too.
He beat me to it.
Who doesn't love guys who can blow the top off? I don't blame them.
So I'm curious. What would you offer for them? Do you have any value in mind there?
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking you could maybe get away with a high second for them, low first. Teams that know their value because of the youth might want a first. I probably wouldn't give up a first for them. If you can get away with a second-round pick for them, they're definitely worth it in my eyes. And just got to keep on your bench and hope they have a huge year. I would choose Reagor over Ruggs personally, but I think both are good targets.
I late last season, I was actually able to finesse a Ruggs in a 3-for-2 deal. I traded, it was James Robinson and the Seattle Seahawks defense. I got back Darrell Henderson, Chase Edmonds, Ruggs, and a pick. And that's just because I was trying to get out of the James Robinson business, not real unsure what was going to happen. But at the same time, the owner was almost willing to just throw Ruggs in. So as far as what I would go out and offer right now, considering his value hasn't changed much since the end of last season, I would be like offering thirds and maybe late seconds, and even late seconds, it would be tough for me to kind of part with. So, I mean, maybe some thirds in this year's draft, maybe this year's third and a future third. But I don't think the community is real high on those guys. And actually, just to kind of segue a little bit into my flyer, I know we usually do the sells, but Ruggs is actually my flyer because I don't think the community is real high on him, and I think that you can go out and get him for pennies and see a pretty good return on investment there.
Also, I do want to backtrack real quick. Sorry. For that trade, was that the 14 team league or the 12?
14.
Okay, so I mean, just so everyone knows who doesn't already, we value defenses very highly on the 14-team league. So I mean, somebody might think, okay, the Seahawks defense with Bruggs as a throw-in, that's nonsense. But defenses can score up to 40 points easy.
Yeah.
So just want to throw that clarity out there, just so people didn't think that Thomas is just a dummy. I mean, sometimes, but I just want to clarify on this one at least.
No, absolutely. I forgot. That's a good mention. Yeah, our defenses are really valued high. That's all me, though. I love defenses.
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, they're half the game.
That's what I say. It's half. It's 50%. I don't know how people don't have so there are a lot of leagues that don't run defenses. I think that's a blasphemy to football. Fantasy football especially. I understand that. Why I get why people don't like having defenses in there because they're not big scores and they don't seem very. It's just kind of a whole team thing, but. Whether it's IDP or full defenses, I think defenses have to be in fantasy football, and I fight for it every single time I can.
Yep.
So that's just a little side note. Thomas, who do you have as your sell?
So my sell, I've got Deontay Johnson as my sell. I know, again, the fantasy community last year was all about him. And don't get me wrong, he got a ton of opportunities, but he also dropped a lot of opportunities. Just to kind of touch a little bit on his other stats. One interesting stat I found was his 6.4 yards per target is actually the lowest for any player that has over 100 targets on the season. It's inefficiency. It's inefficiency from a wide receiver one. I don't want that. Juju just re-signed there. He didn't even have 1,000 yards receiving on this 100. I believe it was 44 targets last year. And so I don't want to necessarily be a part of that business because you got an aging quarterback and you've got two other guys there that are potentially better wide receivers than you are, but it's not something I'm willing to stick around and find out how it ends. I want to get what I can for him now because I want to say he still has a pretty decent price tag, but just look to get out of that business now and diverge those somewhere else, some other assets.
I mean, do you think he's a sell? But for me, it's more like a hold because I'm not sure he does have that really decent price tag. I think those stats are like you talked about. Not many teams are starting Deontay Johnson. He's too questionable to even get in your lineup. So are you going to get that value out of him moving him now? Or would you think, I would think, hold on to him for a minute and hope he has a good couple games and then sell him? You're saying move right now.
I don't see him necessarily having, close to even the season he had last year. Chase Claypool is there, and everybody really loves him. I had him ranked, I want to say, number 14 on Dynasty wide receivers, and so you got him, and then Juju re-signed. Juju re-signed that 1 year, essentially to either wait for Pittsburgh to kind of clear up some cap space the following year so he can either get extended there or essentially audition for another role as a wide receiver on another team. But either way, he's going to take away a good amount of targets there, and I don't necessarily, I don't want to stick around to see how it's going to pan out. I would rather just look to get out of the business while I can.
Take it as you will. It was just about $3 million less than Aguilar signed for. So I want to say Aguilar was $11 million, where Juju was.
Well, Juju refused more money from Kansas City and Baltimore, I believe.
He could have gotten more, but yeah, it was. He
wanted to stay in Pittsburgh.
Everyone was significantly less than Aguilar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Aguilar's an interesting one to keep your eye on. I don't know how he got that huge deal, but I think the Patriots know something we don't, which they like to think they do, or something's really off with that. But
those AFC Championship game appearances seem to say otherwise. They know what they're fucking talking about. And maybe it's Tom Brady too. We just don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say we haven't seen what Tom Brady did. He didn't look good last year. My sell is, as I mentioned earlier, DJ Moore. Everyone is so high on DJ Moore, and look, there's nothing wrong with DJ Moore. You're still talking about a potential top 10 in the league receiver, as a lot of people value him. I don't like his production. I don't like the quarterback situation. I don't like the fact that he doesn't get in the end zone. He's got 10 touchdowns in 40 games. That's not top receiver stats. You're not going to win leagues not getting in the end zone. He's had 2 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, and 4 touchdowns in each of his first 3 seasons. I like the target share. But 66 catches for 1193 yards last year. I mean, he had those downfield catches, which helped. But I don't like the production compared to the value. And that's why I sell DJ Moore. His value right now is sky high. I sold him in my league last year, and that's what won me the league. I got Stephon Diggs and David Montgomery for DJ Moore, and those two won me the league. I'd still take Diggs over Moore right now. And I just think people value youth so much. And because he's so young, he's 23 after 3 years, that everyone's like, oh, he's going to catch, he's going to be great. I don't agree. He doesn't get in the end zone. And I think he is going to be a solid receiver in Dynasty, but I think he's worth a lot more to move than to sit and hold on to. I don't think that's the guy winning you leagues. I think he wins you leagues by using his value now. So that's just my personal opinion on sells. But
so rumor has it that Carolina is still really strongly chasing Deshaun Watson. Say in theory Deshaun gets signed by Carolina and is actually able to play straight up. How far would you move DJ Moore up your boards, and would you hold?
I would at that point. I would hold. I think the quarterback situation is probably my biggest knock on DJ Moore. I just don't like the fact that Teddy Bridgewater was there. Even when Cam was there, it wasn't that much better. And I'm not. Like I said, I still haven't. He's in my top 20 for receivers. He's a great dynasty receiver. I think his value is the reason you'd sell him. And I don't necessarily think he wins you leagues because of that lack of touchdowns, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really been sold on DJ Moore, even when he did come into the league, because of the Cam situation. Cam isn't a guy who wears it out, but I mean, Cam is still going to dink and dunk it, toss it down to him. But then you run into the Christian McCaffrey effect, because Christian McCaffrey is still the focal point of that offense. And unless they get that substantial upgrade at quarterback, like a Deshaun Watson, I don't have a high evaluation on DJ Moore, because he's and I know we've been talking and I've been just fluffing youth movement all podcast here, but DJ Moore is just one of the guys who's almost the epitome of boom and bust. Robbie Anderson came to town 1 year and had a better season in 1 year than DJ Moore had in his career there. So that's a little concerning to me, but I've never been about DJ Moore, and so I would agree, look to get out of the DJ Moore business and still get those. Whether it be draft assets or even upgrade the player.
See, you just made my point again for me, Thomas. The youth movement. You're talking about DJ Moore 2 years ago. That guy's number one on everybody's list. He's the next up and coming guy, and then you find out actually
I was never about him. DJ Moore has never actually showed anything. DJ Moore has never showed anything on tape that he does really, really well or better than anybody else. Yeah. I'm telling you, when you watch these wide receivers like Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, they just make plays that other wide receivers cannot make, and so they set themselves apart. Absolutely.
I don't think Justin Jefferson's quite on that list, though. That's just my opinion when I see him. I see he makes plays. He definitely looks good. I just don't think so. We'll see. We'll see. Obviously, he had the best rookie season in the history of the NFL. I mean, we're looking at a great receiver last year.
As a rookie, he finished in the top 6 in PPR scoring.
Right now with DJ Moore and young guys, you don't know because you haven't seen it over more than one season.
We haven't seen this in 10 years. So
yeah, no, absolutely. He's still top of he's still 7th on my rankings. I still love
that's too low.
For you,
you're mad about it. You should have drafted him. Don't be mad at him.
Well, that's probably a big part of it. Just that hate and regret. Mixed together.
Oh yeah.
My Eagles hate probably. But, no, look. One more thing on DJ Moore. I actually had him in both of my dynasty leagues, and I sold him in both of my dynasty leagues 2 years ago, and one of them last year, and the other. I try and move on from him quickly. He's just, like I said, he's one of those guys I love having just because that value's there. You really can get a lot for him. Man, dangle that guy out. Danny, you have him at number 9. That's who I sold him to, I think, in one of the leagues.
I also sold him to you in our 14 team for Josh Allen plus. So
you got Josh Allen from me for him.
Plus something else. I don't remember what it was, but
I think it was a pick.
Yeah.
yeah. That was. Well, I ended up trading back for Josh Allen, so thank you for that.
Right? Yeah, fair. Yeah.
All right.
So going to Danny's picks, buy equals. So we had Calvin Ridley there. We already talked about him. Sell Juju. We did kind of talk about that receiver room at least a little bit. Do you guys have any thought about Juju and whether you should sell him, hold, or?
I would sell him. I think he's one of those guys too that gets pretty decent numbers, and he has decent value because of his youth. But I don't like the situation in Pittsburgh. Never really did, and I don't think he's as good as he gets credit for. He's another one of those young receivers who looked like he was going to be the next big thing, and then look what happens 2 years later. Lo and behold, Antonio Brown's out of the picture. He becomes the wide receiver one, and he doesn't put up the same numbers. You cannot trust youth before you see what they can do, and he's a good example of that, because 2 years ago that guy was the guy who's in everyone's list, top 10 must have. He's going to be the next big thing. I would sell him too.
Also, Roethlisberger has been talking about retiring for the past 4 years. Publicly on the radio, privately to his friends, who then leak it to the news sources. He got hurt, and they were like, "Oh, no, this is last year." And it's been his last year for 4 years, so that's coming soon enough. He's falling off a cliff. He still plays very well. He still is at least borderline Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, probably is a Hall of Fame quarterback. It just hurts for me to say that. I just hate it. But he's done soon. Like he can't be sticking around for that much longer.
Yeah, so it's true that hurts the situation. Thomas, do you like Juju?
He's a hold for me. I don't think that there is a high evaluation right now in the fantasy community for Juju. I don't know that you're going to get back how you might personally value him. And his position is not great. He didn't put up huge yardage numbers last year, but he did eat up some receptions, and he did have some scores there. So he's not all bad, but at the same time, I would really still like to see what he does with a change of scenery or with a change of the quarterback situation. But I would say he's a hold right now, just because selling him, I don't think you're going to get back close to the value that you might have on him or that you feel is fair. And so I don't think that I would try to move it right now.
Yeah, I mean, last year he had 97 catches for 831 yards. It's 8.6 yards per reception. It's just
he had 10 touchdowns. No.
9 touchdowns. That's what really ballooned his value. And
it's 100 catches, almost 100 catches, huge. That's
absolutely. And you look at his career numbers; he's always been around 13 yards per reception until last year. So you really think last year might be the anomaly, but another one of those names. I can see. I like your hold evaluation. I'm selling him though. Personally, I just don't like. I stayed away from him all over every league I'm in. Flyer. We mentioned earlier, Thomas. You went with Ruggs.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of positive things to say, obviously, about Ruggs that first year, but like I keep saying, that draft capital, that's a first round investment. You can't make those picks and not utilize the playmaker there. And if you do, but it's the Raiders, and I wouldn't be shocked if they don't. But again, he's one of those guys you can get for peanuts right now, and he could certainly turn it around or have that rebound year.
Yeah, that's why I had him as my buy. My flyer, personally, I got Quintez Cephas. Look, the Lions don't have any receivers anymore. Turns out they didn't re-sign just about anybody. And they picked up Tyrell Williams. Rashad Perryman's there. But Cephas is kind of the only guy. Now, granted, they have the 7th pick. They're most likely taking a receiver. They're going to get one of those elite talents. So Cephas is probably going to be the number 2, number 3 on that team. I could see him, though, putting up huge numbers. I know people aren't big on Jared Goff. I know he likes to throw the ball, and he's decent at it when he gets a chance to. And Detroit likes to throw the ball. So I could see Quintez Cephas on a team that is starved for talent and that needs someone to make some plays down the field. I could see him being that guy. He's only 23, 2020 5th-round draft pick. Love that potential. And he's probably a free agent in a lot of leagues. You can get him for a 3rd-round pick or extremely cheap. He's a guy I look to get right now, and hopefully he can produce something.
Yeah, I would agree with that because they don't have a very a robust wide receiver room. So it's certainly a name to keep an eye on. And I mean, a little off topic here. Another name to keep an eye on out of there, I think, is Hawkinson. Though Hawkinson's been in the system now 2 years. Jared Goff's going to need a safety blanket, and it's going to be Swift and it's going to be Hawkinson. And I think once they are able to get it downfield, Quintez Cephas or whoever they might draft might actually start to see the dividends pay off just a little bit. But flyer for sure. Definitely just take a shot on it. It's a dart throw, but if it hits, it could certainly be a pretty valuable dart throw.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan. Chris, who does Danny have as his flyer?
So his flyer is Laviska Shenault.
Oh, right. Shenault. Yeah, look, you can't argue with that, too. It's had a great rookie season. He's on a team that's about to get a franchise quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I love that situation. I don't know if that's necessarily a flyer. That guy's clearly, he's like a must-buy. He's high on a lot of people's lists.
Really? I think it just depends on how he's valued, too, because, they signed Marvin Jones. They got DJ Chark there still. I think they want to bring in a tight end.
They were talking about moving Chark. I don't know if that happened yet or not, but there are a lot of rumors that Chark was going to be gone. But bringing him, I love Marvin Jones Jr. He's my man.
So it's just that almost doesn't make sense if you want a guy like Shenault to excel. Don't why would you bring in a Marvin Jones to?
Also they have
the same thing that Shenault does.
The first pick in the second round. So depending, they have other holes. Obviously, if they're going to be the worst team in the NFL last year, they have other holes. Might not necessarily pick a receiver, but
they're not going to pick a receiver. No. They have a really packed receiver room as it is. Like you said, with Marvin Jones signing, Shark is still there. Shenault, Philip Dorsett. They've got 4 legit receivers. I don't see them drafting one right now, and Shenault being the youngest and probably most potential one of the room. I think they stick with what they have. But that's another teams value youth so highly. I think he is high on a lot of people's lists. Not entirely sure. You're right. You might be able to find an owner that doesn't quite know what they have in him, but I think he's a little higher than just quite a flyer.
I've gotten a lot of very low offers because I do have him in one of our leagues. Gotten a lot of very low offers, and I'm not trying to sell. I'm not going to try and sell for a third or maybe even a low second. I'm not going to try and sell for that just because he has a potential. He is at injury risk though. At Colorado, he did get hurt, so you got to think about that. The type of play, the type of player he is. Was a kind of gadget player, but also a little tiny bit fragile. Maybe he was unlucky, but he's been hurt before.
Yeah, I can see it. Thomas, how do you feel about him?
Like I was saying, I don't get the Marvin Jones signing if you were looking to kind of move forward there, but I guess it does make sense if you're going to address other holes on your team via the draft as opposed to taking another playmaker there. But it's just going to be very interesting to see what he does. I don't think he's a perimeter player. He's one of those guys who's going to do a lot of work out of the slot and in the backfield. I see him being the best player comp, at least off the top of my head, is like a Curtis Samuel with maybe a little bit more athleticism. But yeah, he's one of those guys. If Smalls isn't taken third or late second, but if you can go out and get him for that, I think you pull the trigger on that.
Worth it.
That's why I put him higher than a flyer. I don't think many teams are selling him for much less than a first right now. You're talking about a young kid who had a pretty decent rookie season on a terrible team. That moving forward is probably going to get a lot more targets.
When you say the word speculation, this is more speculation because we got Trevor Lawrence coming in, and we basically have to speculate on exactly what type of role Shenault is even going to have, as opposed to all the guys that we had in our top 10 and our top 5. I wouldn't say it's speculation necessarily; it's just being.
Also, Urban Meyer is as big of a role as Lawrence is, I think. Urban Meyer and the team he brings in, you can have terrible coaches and great players, and those great players aren't necessarily going to perform where they should. You can have great coaches and the players will play higher than they should be able to.
It's everything plays into the factor, especially in Jacksonville right now. There's so many question marks with that team, and they're going to be better. How much better is the real question, because you can't get worse than what they were. Shenault's going to be a good part of that, and I think I like that flyer. Definitely, if you can get your hands on, he's definitely a kid to own. Any other honorable mentions you guys want to mention before we get out of here? The receiver position in Dynasty or fantasy football in general is just so deep. there are tons of guys you can talk about. We could talk for hours. Like I said, we could probably do a top 100 on this. But
don't definitely don't make me do that.
That would be a little bit long.
I will put one honorable mention. I don't know if I could put him in the top 10, 15 probably, though, is T. Higgins. You know, Joe Burrow's coming back. They got Riley Reich on the right tackle, at least right guard. Sewell coming in, hopefully. Burrow's going to have time. Higgins is replacing that A.J. Green position. And A.J. Green was the top 3 receiver for the first 5 years of his career. So if T. Higgins can kind of start replicating that, I think he's definitely worth a buy.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't mention him at all today, actually. I love T. Higgins, too. But there, like we said, there's so many good receivers in the league. It's look for those guys who are young on up-and-coming teams if you're looking for dynasty receivers.
Or old if you're Adam. Adam likes the old guys.
Oh, I mean, the proven guys. I'm trying to win, though. I'm talking to those guys who are not winners. The teams out there that are struggling in dynasty, you need to target those young guys like you, Chris.
Yeah, I have been a middling team for a very long time. I'm not going to lie. That is known. This is known.
You took over probably the worst team of anybody that took over.
It was so bad. It was really bad.
Yeah, you've done a good job. Yeah. All right. That does it for us this week. Next week, obviously, talking tight ends. We're going to do another top 10, just so we can get a little more in depth in that position. Tight ends are a tricky one in fantasy, as everybody knows, especially with a lot of those tight end premium leagues out there. So you're going to want to catch what we have to say about that. Adam Skinner, again, the coach, with Thomas Lozano, the guru, and Chris Roth, the wizard, out in Denver, Colorado. We hit our Facebook page, hit our Instagram, past the projections. Go to our YouTube channel and follow us and listen to more of what we have to say. We're going to be coming out with this every week, talking, giving you that dynasty info you need. So, thank you for joining us once again, and we'll see you soon.
This guy's full of shit. He's not a believer in Jalen Hurts.
You got A.J. Dillon and Henry Ruggs, you know.
Oh, don't even. Nah, they're not. I'll put them in the same sentence.
And I didn't have to pay up.
Yeah.
So, Burrow.
How many guys do you have left on your board?
Who is left here?